let's start it. In 2017, two metal detectors, these are the brothers van Schaik, they found four silver and over 100 bronze coins on the banks of the A, and that's a river that flows near the city of 's-Hertogenbosch in the Netherlands. The find spot is actually far away from the Roman northern border and the so-called limes. And at the find spot itself, there has been no habitation present from Roman period, nor did any Roman battle happen there, or a battle in Roman times happened there. And because of this peculiar site, the Dutch National Heritage Institute decided to perform an archaeological excavation. And I was honored to be asked to collaborate in this project as a coin specialist. In this lecture, I want to invite you or introduce you all to this unique coin find. First, I will tell you about the composition of the hoard. Secondly, I will explore its archaeological and historical, no, not only the archaeological and environmental context. Then I will delve into the interpretation of the find as a votive find, and after that, I will explain a little bit more about the ritual in votives of votives in antiquity, and also about the principle of the do ut des, which will be explored in relation to this hoard. And finally, I will also demonstrate how the ancient principle of voting through coins found at the River A could have been anchored even in a more older pre-Roman tradition. But first, the discovery. In February 2017, two brothers here, Nico and Wim van Schaik, decided to take their metal detectors to a place where construction works were going on in order to restore the A River, the natural landscape around the A River, in more particular. In the 13th of the 19th century, this river has been canalized. Yet several partners decided that they wanted to restore the natural flow of this river A. And therefore, a new meander was dug 40 meters in the north of the old canalized river. The old canal arm is now used as a reserve water basin when there is a flood, for example. So it was a cold day and has been snowing before. And after a search of several hours, the brothers decided to do one more search before it became dark. And that's, of course, how all these stories go. A first beep was heard, followed by many others, and so many even that the brothers first thought that their metal detectors malfunctioned. They started digging, and soon they found several iron objects. They had hit the jackpot. In total, they had collected around 100 Romanish objects in an area of 50 to 50 meters. The majority of the coins were found also together concentrated in a smaller area. And with this fantastic find, Nico and Wim decided they wanted to tell about it, and they go to PAN. So now, what is PAN? PAN stands for Portable Antiquities of the Netherlands. It's a Dutch heritage project that has started some years ago, and PAN documents and publishes finds of archaeological interest, mainly those of metal found by members of the general public and also being kept in private collections. By publishing these collections now online, the objects and their find locations are made available for heritage purposes, for academic research, for museums, but also for members of the general public to enjoy. And PAN is part of a bigger North Sea area finds recording group, which is a cooperation of organizations aimed at archaeological find registration. PAN is primarily financed by the Dutch Organization for Scientific Research and additional also by the National Heritage Agency. And it's based at the Vrije Universiteit in Amsterdam. It further works with several scientific partners, such as the National Museum of Antiquities in Leiden, as well as the University of Leiden. In total, 4 silver coins and 103 bronze coins were found. Together with some metal objects, most of them are from horse equipment, but there are also 2 special pieces, such as a decoration headpiece of a hairpin and a ring. And you see a beautiful reconstruction drawing of the hairpin here on the slide. 1/3 of the coins can be identified. The other 2/3 was too worn. The hoard starting date is the reign of Vespasian, that is in the 70s of the 1st century, and the youngest coin, the so-called closing coin of the coin assemblage, dates from the reign of Marcus Aurelius. That's the 80s of the 2nd century. So the major part of the coins date from the reign of Emperor Trajan. The whole hoard covers then a period of more than 100 years. And that already, of course, indicates that the coins have been assembled over several generations. There's one exception. And that is this coin. It is a Republican denarius. It's a silver coin of the Monier Calpurnius. And that dates to 19 BC. On the slide, you see on the obverse Apollo depicted wearing a laurel, and on the reverse a horseman holding a palm and a fackel or a swipe, and flanked underneath by the name of the Monier Lucius Piso Frugi, and also the word Roma. You can't see that anymore on this coin because it's the surface is very, very worn, which also demonstrates that this Republican coin probably has circulated for a long time into the Netherlands. The 3 other denarii, again, silver coins, are from the Emperor Vespasian and the Emperor Trajan. Here you see Pax depicted seated with a branch in her hand, whereas the other denarius has priestly symbols. And the denarius of Trajan below recalls his victory over Dacia, depicting a standing Dacian prisoner with his hands tied up. Under the bronze coins, these are the bronze coins. This Trianic Victoria type, holding a shield in her hands, appears multiple times in the hoard. And other remarkable bronze coins are the ones from the Emperor Domitian. You see that these are much more worn than the silver ones. And you see here, Domitian is the coin of Domitian is above, displaying a burning altar, and the coin below is of the Emperor Antoninus Pius, with the same priestly symbols as we have seen on the denarius of the Emperor Vespasian. So in total, 103 bronze coins were found, but be no afraid, I will not discuss each coin separately. I will now continue with the historical context of the hoard. Okay. And I found my text back. Because before we can analyze the purpose of the coins found in this Dutch hinterland, we first have to turn to the historical context of the place where the coin hoard was found. And that is the river A, near the city of in Roman times, the Rhine, the river Rhine in the Netherlands figured as such as traders and craftsmen. So the limes were the place to bury coordinators south of these limes, which could have been the mainland of the tribes of the Tungri or Brisavones. In this hinterland, villa farms were situated, but also a small village was only originating of the late medieval period, but we found some prehistoric and Roman objects sporadically in the surroundings of Berlicum, and more information or detailed information you find on this map. So all the reddish things are objects that have been found in or in the surroundings of Berlicum. And then the river A here is being marked in blue, and the star, the black star, is the position of the coin find. So now we see that the big reddish circle is the present town of Berlicum. And then you see you have the red square, that is actually the late medieval castle at Berlicum. And then you have a more triangle-shaped red figure that is a prehistoric urn field. And all the other triangles are Roman objects, mostly individual coins. Only the number here, I hope you see my cursor, that is some modern rubbish of the old canal. So that's it for the historical context, which is actually not very much. But then we have another element in the search for the interpretation of this find, and that is the height map. The height map of the village of Berlicum. And there you can see in the north that the valley of the stream, so here you have the A river again, and the valley or the river here is adjacent to a higher elevated or higher located descent back. And such descent elevation is the result of debris that have been elevated over the years during the last ice age period. So after the ice melted, the debris was left over and formed this descent hill. In the south of the river A, you also see some leftover of a smaller descent hill. And previous archaeological research in the Netherlands has proven or has demonstrated that often rich archaeological material from prehistoric times, but also Roman times, are being located at these descent hills. For the ones being curious here, the elevated bridge that you found here on the map is, of course, a modern construction of a dike in order to hold the water of the A river in case of high tides. So that's a later construction. Then we get some information of the cadastral map of the Netherlands of 1832. This is a map that has been made some 15 years after the independence of the Netherlands. It's called the Kadastrale Minuut. The cadastral map shows us a pedestrian route going through the valley of the A river. The route, if you see very, very closely, is to be recognized by a dotted gray line. It crosses the A river at the spot where the descent hills are. It is unclear from the map whether there was a bridge there or a ford. In order now to make it more visible for you, I have marked the same pedestrian route on the geographical situation of today. And here you see very clearly that the route crossed the now restored meander of the river A, and the location, also at the location where the two Dexent hills were or are still. The star again marks the location of the coin find. On later maps of the Netherlands, however, the pedestrian route has been disappeared. Most likely, the later construction of the A itself made it for pedestrians that the pedestrian route could not be used anymore, of course. Then we move on to the archaeological excavations. In October of 2018, the archaeological team of the Ministry of the Cultural Heritage, in cooperation with PAN, started excavations on the place where the coins were found. And on the slide, you can see some kind of agenda, you could say, of their excavation. They decided to make a long trench at the location where most of the coins of the find were found. And besides that, 27 drillings were planned, following either the direction of the pedestrian route, but also exploring the Dexent hills. Here you see a picture of when the archaeological excavation started, and the finders of the coin finds, the brothers van Schaik, also helped with their metal detectors. And this is quite a unique thing, because not in every country it is allowed with metal detectors on an official excavation, and certainly not, let's say, by these non-trained archaeologists. But this is actually one of the aims of PAN, to make a good cooperation, collaboration, either between academia, but also the public. Then on the next slide, you see the picture of the whole trench, in which they found several archaeological traces and objects. And most interesting are here two pieces of bronze, which may have belonged to a Roman pendant in the shape of a phallus, but also two extra coins were found in situ. These coins are numbers 20 and 22. As all other metal objects, they were again found in this layer of iron. And this suggests, of course, that the area once had been wet. On the picture, then you see, or on this next slide, you see the layers of the trench that are stapled throughout history. And the layer of the Roman period is the one with the sand and the iron concretions, so the more yellow layer. And in this layer, the Roman coins, so number 20 and 22, were also found. Then at the spot, the archaeological team also decided to dig another trench, and that is a smaller trench in the west, so next to the first original long trench. And in this trench, so I put a circle around it. And in this trench, so up here above, they found actually much more pieces of Roman pottery and also a grindstone. And they also discovered that they could see how undeep the river went in this place. Then beside these two trenches, I also mentioned that they made 27 drillings in order to explore further the soil, and actually no unexpected results or fabulous findings were noted here. They only had some rubbish and glass actually from the modern period. So that was a little bit disappointing there. But now, what do we have now? We have 109 coins found more or less in a particular context, by which we may assume that they're all linked to each other. And we can call them that as a kind of closed find and maybe even a coin hoard. Through different characteristics, closed finds can talk to us. And we as scholars can interpret them and unravel then a little piece of history. So I will try to demonstrate how you can interpret those coin finds by focusing on peculiar characteristics through some examples of coin hoards found in the Dutch soil. And their interpretation, so I've chosen coin hoards where their interpretation is quite straightforward. Of course, in the majority of coin hoards, this straightforwardness is not always the case. So we have 109 bronze coins, 109 Roman coins. The majority is bronze. There are only 4 of them of silver. So the composition of the coins, almost then of bronze metal, hints that the coins could have been lost. Often Romans carry their low value coins, so bronze coins, on them in a metal purse. As you can see on the slide here, it's from the collection of the National Antiquities Museum in Leiden. And from time to time, such purse was lost, carrying low value coins. However, such purse hoards have mostly a low number of coins. And often the coins itself are also issued around the same period or are dating to one and the same emperor. And that is not the case for our hoard, which has a span time of over 100 years. So not a purse hoard. What else do we got? The time period between the oldest coin and the youngest coin of the coin find is quite big. So I already told you, more than 100 years. Mostly saving hoards have such large span time as hoards were saved over a long time, sometimes even over several generations. Yet, when saving things, they mostly have a lot of value. Saving hoards contain gold and silver, and the coins are found together, for example, in one container. Sometimes even jewels are being hoarded with it, as you can see here on the slide. This is a picture of a saving hoard from Den Haag, found in 2014, with a container, here a vessel, which contains silver coins from the 3rd century, but also bracelets, glass beads, and a brooch. So none of these characteristics are being seen in our hoard. So no saving hoard. Back to our hoard. The coins of the Berlicum Hoard were scattered around over an area of 50 to 50 meters. And such chaotic deposit could point to an emergency of a disaster hoard. One of the famous examples of the Netherlands of such disaster hoard we know from the Dam plan in Utrecht. Here the Batavians burned down the Roman military camp of Triactum during the Batavian revolt. Here 50 golden coins were found in the scattered ashes of the camp. Most likely a higher officer hid his gold coins in the camp, of which the roof collapsed by the fire. And the officer probably never came back, or he didn't came back to recollect his coins, because probably he got killed or had to flee. Anyway, he left us a hoard, which is one of the key sources for this Batavian revolt. And you can see on the slide the excavations of this camp under the dome on the slide. Yes, such disaster hoards often contain also metal precious coins, of precious metal coins, because people are hiding, of course, their savings at the time of sudden unrest. So that again is not the case for our hoard. No disaster hoard. The place of the coin hoard, a former ford of the River A, suggests that the coins were deposited intentionally, most likely as a wish for a safe passage, a safe passage. In Northern Europe, this habit is already known from prehistoric times, where valuable belongings were deposited in waterish places, such as a river, a swamp, a well. Because for people in antiquity, water was perceived to be sacred. People could choose also what they donate to water and its deity associated with it. In the Netherlands, a well-known example comes from the Corbulo Canal, where a helmet was deposited, now nicknamed the Golden Mask, and also conserved in the National Museum of Antiquities here in Leiden. Most likely, an officer deposited here his helmet when he resigned from the army. In this way, he symbolically ended his military service. A helmet is, of course, quite expensive, but people could donate whatever they wanted to the water. As such, civilians could also donate their small bronze money, as we see in a lot of other places in the ancient Greco-Roman world. For example, we have this famous example in Bath in the UK, and lots of bronze coins were found here in honor of the deity Minerva Solis, whose baths gave salvation and cured ancient visitors. One of the coin types that have been found here often is a type of the Emperor Hadrian displaying Salus, the goddess of health. It demonstrates that the visitors even made a selection of coin messages suitable to donate to Minerva Solis. Another example comes from the Aqua Bourbonis in France, that is nowadays Bourbon-les-Bains. Here again, lots of small chains of Bourbon. In particular, bronze displaying the heads of the emperors and coins in two halves in order to donate only the half of the coin's value. So here again, you can see that people in antiquity donated also only what they could spare, possibly. And of course, depositing coins is still a habit that we know today. Who has not threw a coin in a well while being on vacation, or had not sit down throwing backwards a coin in the Trevi Fontaine, wishing that he or she will return to the internal city? While further interpreting our coin find and also other characteristics typically for the votive deposit, we will see that a lot of these characteristics are to be found in the hoard of the Berlicum find. First of all, we have the long stretch of time between the oldest and the youngest coin, which suggests that it was a votive deposit that has been continuously deposited over several decades, where several people deposit intentionally coin or more to the river. Second, the bronze material, the majority of the coins, is logical for this kind of votive deposit. People are mostly depositing their small money and not their savings. Thirdly, the fact that the coins were found in an area of 50 to 50 square meters hints again that different people over a longer stretch of time threw a coin near a place when they crossed the river, causing, of course, also that each coin was deposited on a different spot. I hope eventually that this picture, borrowed from Asterix and Obelix, can somehow demonstrate how traders and tax collectors who traveled throughout the hinterland of the Netherlands deposit a coin to the water after crossing the ford. Now, where does this habit of coin votives come or do come from? Water, of course, has played always the sacred role to ancient men. Rivers and wells were perceived to be sacred, but also special features in water, such as waterfalls, rapids, and a ford were seen as loci sacra, sacred places. To honor the gods was a key aspect in the lives of the ancient people. Here, to donate sacrifices to these gods played a central role. For some deities and religious festivals, the amount of sacrifices and also the types of sacrifices were predetermined. Think of the Salvatorilia, which was a purification offering of a pig a sheep, and a bull. As an illustration, you find here on my slide the skeletons of a sheep, an ox, and a pig that have been found in the archaeological rooms of the Temple of Elst in the Netherlands. So there, this established ritual would have been performed to purify the Temple of Elst, which was most likely dedicated to the god Hercules Magusanus. And on the slide, you see also a reconstruction drawing of this temple. Now, we can broadly divide the intentions to sacrifice to a deity into three bigger groups. The first group we can call the votum act. Here, a believer gives a votive gift as a result of a vow you have made to a god or goddess, that is your votum, and only give the votum, back when the god or goddess actually has granted your wish. The most famous votive dedications in the Netherlands are the votive altars of the native for the native German Celtic goddess Nehalenia. The identification of Nehalenia is not 100% clear. Perhaps she was watched over the seas and the rivers, but some also see some kind of ambiguous demon in her that you should appease in order to have a safe passage over the North Sea. And therefore we see that the ancient sea and river traders asked the goddess Nehalenia to protect the crew, the ship, and its cargo. After then safely having returned from their trading over the North Sea Channel, they erected these altars, stating explicitly that they had fulfilled their vow, their votum. Secondly, one could also give a gift to a deity in the hope that he or she will return or give something back. And this ritual is better known as the do ut des principle, literally translated by I give with the intention that you will give in return. Of course, often such gifts are not inscribed, so we don't know really whether it is a gift given with the expectation that the deity will do something in return, or whether the gift was already for the fulfillment of a previous vow. There's a little bit here. In the Netherlands, you will find various gifts given to a deity, which could indicate to such do ut des principle. So where the dedicator is still hoping to receive something of the deity. On the slide, you see it in a villa in the Netherlands, and it's of the parkai. The parkai symbolized death, but because it was found in a villa context in the Netherlands, scientists or scholars actually think that this figurine previously actually served as a request to provide good birth and eventually avoid death. Yet because there is no inscription here, it could also be having a votive gift, of course, given because the believer already received a good pregnancy or had given birth to a healthy baby. Third kind of gift are gifts that could have been made out of pure gratitude. In this case, we can see that something happened to a person and that the event had a happy ending. And then people could attribute this good outcome to a higher power, usually a specific deity that had protected them. This gratitude did not only occur in dramatic events, but it could also have been the offering of the first fruits of harvest. For the Netherlands, I have the following example selected. It is laying down the arms in the temple of Empel, and it was a sacrifice for the god Mahusan, which was mostly done at purely gratitude by the Batavian soldiers and thanked Hercules Magusanus for reaching their retirement age. So what is immediately striking here about these sacrificial rituals in Greco-Roman antiquity is the idea of reciprocity. With the sacrifice was created between the one who made the gesture of the sacrifice and, on the other hand, the specific deity who rendered a service or a service in return. And by pointing out this habit of reciprocity, I return to our votive coin find near the river A, because it fits also in this idea of reciprocity, where someone who wanted to cross the ford over the river A or had already crossed the ford safely, therefore thanked the sacred water or the water deity with one or more coins. And then there is even something more that strengthens the identification of our coin find as a votive find. And that is the last item of my lecture of today. What is the last element that hints to this votive find? That is the typological selection that has been made when the coins were deposited. We see that only 3 categories are being noticed in this hoard. The smallest group displays messages related to religious acts and attributes. And remember these types displaying the priestly symbols, for example. The second group are coins all bearing messages of cash handouts and the correct administration of the mint. Both messages were in particular important for the military, who from time to time received these cash handouts and were of course very eager to receive them, as their wages also depended from this correct administration of the mint places. And you see here 2 coins referring to moneta and to aequitas. Then the main group, consisting of almost 25%, they all bear messages related to war, peace, and victory. Remember here the denarii that I showed you at the beginning of my lecture, displaying the captured Dacian, but also the bronze with the walking Victoria. And with these 3 distinctive categories of religious types, cash handouts types, and the military types, it seems that an intentionally selection of types was made when composing this hoard. Most striking, then, is also that not the religious images dominate the deposit. No, it are the military types that dominate the typological selection of the images here, which is quite strange for a sacral deposition. And that, of course, in the hinterland, where its travelers would have been mainly traders, tax collectors, or pilgrims. Or is it not strange? In prehistoric times, but also in Roman times, of course, these military objects were often deposited in water. And you remember my example channel. It is therefore maybe not surprising that people in antiquity reinvented traditions for their daily activities. Yet these travelers were no military men anymore. When depositing, it seems that some of them anchored their selected coins into their ancestral habit of military deposition, now choosing coins with military themes. The scholars denote this as a process of anchoring innovation. In this way, the new habit of depositing coins was reinvented and anchored into their past. Of course, I'm also aware that only 1/3 of our coins of the find could be identified. So my suggestion is, of course, only tentative, but it could shine a new light of these kinds of votive deposits in water. So that was the end of my presentation. I thank you very much for your attention, especially because the digital codes were not very at my side this time. If you want to read more about this coin find, I also put the link of the excavation report here on the slide. It is in Dutch, but it's totally open access. But if you want to reread what I have told today, there is a shorter report that I have published in the jaarboek voor munt- en penningkunde in English, and also that open access link is on the slide.